Hi, welcome back to American Government. This week we are going to look at the role that interest groups and social movements have with influencing our system. So this week I'm just going to work through the list again. I want you to start responding to the Module 4 discussions. And I know some of you jumped the gun again this week. It's a little better than last week, but I want you to make sure you wait until midnight of the following Sunday to start responding to the drop boxes. Again, this is actually so we have real discussions, and if you start responding before people have a chance to finish posting, you don't give them opportunity to actually participate. So I want everyone to have their opportunity to get something on here before we start discussing this. So again, I want you to log on at least 3 different days and post to each of the discussions. Again, this week there's 2 of them. And then there's going to be a Dropbox that's going to have 2 short videos on lobbyists and lobbying. And you're going to answer some questions on those, just short 1 paragraph. Answers are fine. And so I'll submit that to the Dropbox. This week we're going to skip the 4th video of Constitution USA. We're going to hold off on that for a week. Just to give you some time to try to catch up here and get ahead. And so we're also going to read Chapter 5 of the text, complete the Chapter 5 quiz, and post your initial post to the social movements and Jack Abramoff discussions. So each of these discussions has a video that you'll watch and then post a response to these. Again, do not start responding to these until 9/24 next Sunday at 11:59 p.m. What I'm going to do is, if you post early on this, I'm going to go and I'm going to erase any early responses, because like I said, I don't want you to start responding until the following week. And this is done, like I said before, to have you have an actual discussion. So I want you to post and give someone time to answer your post and respond. It should be a lot easier to do as the semester goes on. I understand at first it's a little difficult to understand this, but it's done to keep everything flowing continuously throughout the semester. So from now on, I'm sure it won't be a problem. Make sure these assignments are all done by the 24th at 11:59 p.m. And then I also want you to get started in your letter to the editor, and I'll go over that with you today a little bit. So this week we're just going to go through the list again. Module 4, you're just going to go ahead and post your 2 responses. Make sure you log on at least 3 different days to do this, and that shouldn't be a problem at all. Then we have 2 short videos. One has Dr. Olson talking on C-SPAN about some of the issues that come from special interest groups and lobbying. And that's one way that people put power forth with our government, is with lobbying efforts. What they do is they hire individuals to go ahead and speak on their behalf and push for an agenda. And he discusses some of the problems with this. He also describes why these organizations don't do much for the general public. They're usually looking out for a narrow interest, and this has implications socially and economically on us. A lot of these organizations are searching for tax breaks and searching for government money, and this money comes from us. It comes from programs that could be benefiting the general public. He also explains how some of these organizations might convince people to join them. And again, he goes into how they redistribute wealth in our society. In his talk, he explains how they pillage our economy, and I do want you to discuss that a little bit in your questions. Then he also explains, using comparative economics, how some countries, Germany and Japan in particular, have had great economic growth. And he explains that growth they had after World War II. He uses interest groups to explain how they were able to actually grow. So he has an interesting take on that. And then there's a short video. It's a couple of minutes with John McCain. This is from when he was running for president, and he was actually explaining in this video, very briefly, why special interests have too much power, why he feels that they have too much power. And then he explains, according to the video, it explains what he feels a president should do to handle special interests. So he has some interesting insight. I do like looking at people who ran for office before and see what they had to say. It's actually pretty interesting. But he has thoughts on how this should be handled by a president. Again, we have quiz 5. I will have the date updated for this. In module 5, we have 2 questions that you're going to answer. And these are both associated with short videos again. This is why I don't have you watching the 4th installment of the Constitution USA today. There's quite a few videos we're watching. They're pretty short, actually, but they still, I still want to hold off a week on that. So the first video is Toby Chow doing a TED Talk, and he's explaining social movements. And so the average person doesn't have a lobby to go and push forward their agenda. However, groups of people can get together and push for a movement, and possibly, if they work hard enough, they could get their ideas institutionalized and push forward with an agenda. Well, what I want you to do when you watch this, I want you to take what he explains as the background of some social movements, and he also explains why they work. I want you to take this and I want you to consider or to name a social movement that you personally would support. And again, this could be any movement. You can push for a liberal or a conservative movement, or one that maybe is nonpartisan. But I do want you to identify a social movement that you personally would support, and then explain why you would support this movement, as well as your level of commitment to it. In past movements, people have pushed very hard and they've risked a lot, in their commitment. They understood that if they went out there, they might risk, the affection of their family. There's a lot of social activists who did things, and they realized that their family might not support them. They might be pushed aside and shoved aside by their own family. During the civil rights protests, there were a lot of protesters who risked physical violence. There were people who, like Senator John Lewis, he had his head smashed in by police officers in Selma. So him and other people protesting understood that risk, and they knew that there was a risk of bodily harm. But I do want you to put your level of commitment to whatever movement you would personally choose to support. Again, this could be any movement. It could be a conservative, it could be a liberal movement, or it could be nonpartisan. I just want you to discuss something that you feel that you would get behind. Then there's a short video with Jack Abramoff, who's a very interesting person. Jack was a lobbyist years ago in DC, and he pushed for some pretty interesting things. He explains how he worked as a lobbyist. He explains some key points that illustrate how lobbyists worked and work. He argues that a lot of the ideas that were put forward to control lobbyists really haven't worked, and that lobbyists do have a pretty strong reach with our elected officials. So he explains this. I want you to discuss a key point from his interview, and usually a lot of students watch this and they're really amazed by the amount of power and influence that lobbyists have. Well, he explains it pretty well, so I want you to go ahead and discuss that. Then We're going to move on to the letter to the editor. So again, this is an opportunity to push an idea. I want you to write a letter that's about 200 to 300 words in length, and you're going to discuss the biggest problem in politics in the United States today. So here's how the letter should look. It's a very short assignment, and I do hope that some of you get this published. Every semester I have up to 20% of my class get these published of local newspapers. Some students push for national papers, but there's no need. The Rapid City Journal publishes pretty regularly, so does the Argus Leader. So you have opportunity to actually get these published. One thing I will warn you is that your name is on this, and so when you do publish it, you might get some pushback from people who don't agree with your letter, but that's part of putting yourself out there. If you have no interest in getting it published, you still need to turn this in. This is worth 25 points, so it's important you get this done. Well, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I will get back with you. Also, if you have anything that's complicated, send me an email. I will be happy to set up a phone conversation or a conference, or if you live in Spearfish or Rapid City, I could meet you. I teach on both campuses. So again, have a great week, and reach out to me if any questions. Thank you.